Morning, guys. I'm out taking a walk right now, and I wanted to talk to you about something that I realized that I thought was kind of cool. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about it. I don't know if this is necessarily like what I would call a coaching video, but it's just I kind of want to open up the conversation around this and also just point out something really interesting that I noticed in my life that's been going on for the last 4 years that I've lived in Switzerland. So I've told you guys many times before that discomfort is the currency for change. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that in order for any sustainable or lasting change to occur in a person's life and their thinking and their belief systems, they have to be willing to experience discomfort. And notice the word willing there, because we will always experience discomfort, but if we constantly resist the discomfort, then that's a totally different story. So the important part for wanting to create any real sustainable changes is to be willing to step into the discomfort, and being willing to remain there as long as necessary to create the change. So why am I talking about this? I realized something this morning that was very important for me, in the fact that in the last 4 years of living in Switzerland, I've made some huge steps as far as changing my perception of life in general, and just kind of stepping into a version of me that before I would not have believed was possible. And here's what I noticed, or what I had this sort of like aha moment this morning, because I do always preach the importance of the discomfort and being willing to step into it. And so what I realized is that I was actually in a discomfort that I was choosing to be in, that I wasn't even giving myself credit for being in. And I gave myself credit for it this morning. And I was like, wow, yeah, you know what, Seth? You did that. You really did that. And so here's what it is. I realized that, I just realized I'm also going in the wrong direction, so I'm turning around. So I realized, since I'm living in Switzerland, that there is a huge language barrier. Okay, so here where I live in Switzerland, this part of Switzerland is German speaking. There's another part of Switzerland that speaks French, another part that speaks Italian, and then another part that speaks a language called Romansh they're trying to revive here. Anyways, so there are 4 official languages here in Switzerland. English is not one of them. A lot of people here can speak English though, and they learn English in school. But for those of you who have never actually learned a foreign language, and by learned a foreign language, I mean like lived in the culture and learned the language, not just learned how to say a few sentences in Spanish in high school. When you're learning a foreign language, you're not just learning words, you're learning a culture. Because languages don't just include words, they include ways of thinking. And what I mean by this is that certain ways that you could say things in English, you could translate it literally into German and it would make no sense to someone in German, because they would never say that. It would be like speaking a totally different language to them in their own language. They would just be like, I don't get what you're trying to say, because it doesn't make sense in their culture. It's not a thought or a belief or a way to say something. It's just weird. So I've had to live in that for the last 4 years. And it's been very uncomfortable, and I'm slowly learning German, learning to speak it, learning to understand it more and more and more. And the progress is slow, and I'm trying to be loving and patient with myself in it. I keep reminding myself, hey, Seth, you spent 33 years, 32 years of your life speaking and hearing only one language. So, be a little bit compassionate with yourself and the fact that you're not going to get this foreign language overnight. So slowly getting it. But here is what's really cool. I'm a life coach. And so to be a life coach, I work with people on their habits in life, the way that they do things. I work with people on their thinking, their beliefs. And in order to be able to do that, there needs to be a huge depth of understanding. And when there is a language barrier, the way to create that depth of understanding is so unique, because there are so many times that like I think I know what a person is saying, even when we're speaking in English, and then it turns out I don't, because they mean something totally different by saying this in English than what I would mean coming from the USA speaking English. Or sometimes when I say things to them, I think they understand me, but it turns out actually they think that I mean something totally different. So when I'm coaching people, what I've noticed is that I've had to be a lot more aware. I've had to really be present with these people in order to understand fully what's going on and rely on something more than just language. And this is why this is so cool, is because prior to moving to Switzerland, I would have always relied on language and words to have full understanding, and always been very, like word and language dependent. And what I've realized is that I've learned how to not perceive the world in this way so much, how to not lean on that crutch so much anymore, through the fact that I've lived this for the last 4 years. And here's the thing, if I had stayed in the USA, I would have had that comfort available to me all the time. And I'm not sure that I ever would have fully chosen to step out of that comfort of using language as my primary way of understanding. Like I've learned so many more tools and ways to feel and understand a person than just language, by living in a culture that doesn't speak my language natively for the last 4 years. And so I just wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about that, because I found that to be so fascinating that I noticed that I do this. That like when I'm talking with clients now, I pay attention to so much more than just the words that they're saying. And I wouldn't have done that before, because I would have always been like, okay, well, I understand what they're saying. I understand what they mean by what they're saying, because I'm American, they're American, we're speaking English. And so many times I wonder now in my past, how many times I misunderstood someone because I was relying specifically on language and language only to understand them. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys, because I thought that was a really powerful moment to realize that, number one, that had changed about me. Number two, realizing how dependent I was on language before to understand a person, and how flawed that way of understanding a person can be, and how I would have never realized that had I not experienced living the way that I'm living right now, where I can't rely on language to be the only way that I understand a person. I have to be able to read body language and look at the way that they're applying things in their life, and really take the time to ask lots of questions to really understand what it is that they're trying to say, not just assume by face value of the words that I know exactly what it is that they're saying. So yeah, really cool experience. But guys, guess what? It took me going through 4 years of this discomfort of not being able to lean on the one crutch that I've had for 32 years of my life to shift that in my mind. All of this to tell you guys, when I say that the currency for change is discomfort, I truly mean it. It is necessary. There's no way around that. There is no way around it. It will not work. If you're trying to make it as comfortable as possible, it's not going to work. You have to be willing to step into the discomfort and stay there as long as it takes. And here's the cool part about it, is that actually now I don't even realize so much the discomfort of it, because I'm actually, it's becoming the normal for me now. It's now to the point where it's like, actually I get uncomfortable with having conversations with people that do speak English natively, because I realize they're assuming so much. And people who don't speak English natively don't have that luxury to always just assume. So they're always asking questions and being really curious. When they're listening to me, I really feel like they're listening. And so yeah, I had that realization this morning, wanted to share it. Thought it was maybe a cool sharing coachable moment to share with you guys, that an example in my life how I see that discomfort was the currency for change, and how I can now see 4 years later the huge impact it has had on me and my life, how I communicate with people, how I work, how I perceive life. It's drastically changed, but I had to go through that discomfort of not having the English language crutch to lean on for 4 years. So yeah, really cool. I hope you guys can get something out of this. I hope there's maybe some questions, maybe someone had some aha moments watching this video. thoughts, whatever, comments, leave them below. I'd like to talk about this. I think it's really cool, and so I had to share. That's all I have for you. So I wish you guys a wonderful day. I'm going to finish my walk and get to work. Have a good one. Talk to you soon. Ciao.